So here we are with the new Z4 CAMALOT. There's a lot of cool new tech in this cam. A couple things of note is the coolest new thing is this rigid flex trigger, which is super cool. The way it works, there's these wires inside that attach here to the trigger. When you pull the trigger, they're now under tension, and that stiffens up the whole stem. When you release the trigger, those wires are now not in tension, and it allows the whole cam to flex. Seeing those cables move in there, that's what's allowing it to flex, is the no tension, because they're independent, and so right now they're doing nothing. But then when they're under tension, boom, now they stiffen up the whole thing. So the beauty of this is it replaces the C3 and the X4. The C3s, people really like them because they're stiff when you place them, and people really like the X4 because it's allowed to flex, so it reduces walking. So this is kind of two birds in one sort of thing. So that's called the rigid flex stem. We also have this twisted cable. What that does is it allows the flex to be equal in any direction. So that's two cool new pieces of tech. The lobes are sandblasted for better bite, softer aluminum, no ano, better bite in there. The sling is Dynex and color coded with a different pattern than all our other cams, so you can tell them apart on your rack. We've even tucked the tag away so it doesn't get hung up on like your wire gate sort of thing. Shortened up this tack, so it still stays open, but it's not so stiff. One more thing on these guys, if I had a C3, I could show you that big deal 4 cams in the width of a 3 cam unit. So the head width on these is equivalent to the head width of a C3. So it really does replace the 3 cam C3, which is slightly more prone to walking because it's a 3 cam unit and because of the stiffness of a C3. So narrow head, rigid when placed, so it's easy to surgically place and remove, and then the flexibility to reduce walking, 4 cam unit. The littler guys don't have the twisted cable. You don't need 2 cables for the strength, so it's just a single, so you still get the equal flex with just 1 cable there. Same rigid flex trigger, and the new guy, the little green, the number 0, goes smaller than the gray C3. Rated to 5 KN with 4 lobes, and the C3, when we developed that back in 07, it only got rated to 4. Now people whip on it all the time, but in order to be C certified as a progression piece, it needs to be 5. So we got this rated to 5 KN. So smaller than the gray C3, all the way up to the 0.75, and a complete set of offsets starting at the 0.1, 0.2. Available in February of next year, $69.95. Boom, that's how you do it right there. A lot of speculation about the durability of this. This cover is a plastic cover, which is the same material that's used on all our other cams. And for sure, if you try hard enough, you can break anything, but it's incredibly durable. We freeze it and smash it with a yo hammer. Like, we have some cool tech tests at BD, and we also have some Neanderthal tests. That's one where we take a cam, we freeze it, and we beat the crap out of it with a hammer. It doesn't break. This is where we got the name Z4 from the of that. So it's really just a protective cover that houses these 2 cables that allow it to flex and then get rigid when you pull it. We've never had one break in all our field testing with our athletes and everyone at BD. We've never had this thing break. I would think in the exact perfect situation, you could maybe do a pendy whipper and cause it to grind, or I'm not sure. But I don't know if we've ever had a plastic stem on a C4 break, or ultralight, and it's the same material. Different geometry, of course, but yeah, it's pretty durable. You guys have been to BD. We do like mad cyclic fatigue and all this stuff testing. We haven't had any issues with any wire abrasion, friction issues or anything like that. And all the field testing we've been doing, because we've been climbing on versions of these for a year plus or whatever, and there's been no issues. One thing that's worthy mentioning here is I don't believe you're going to be able to replace the triggers on these units in the field. Our other cams have the trigger replacement kits. We're coming out with the UL trigger replacement kit, but this one, it's just not going to be possible in the field. You're going to have to send them back to BD to replace the triggers if they happen to break. So the way this thing started was 2 years ago when we sat down with our athletes, with Carlo, Hazel, Sonny, I'm always forgetting someone. Maybe Babsy. We had all the cams on the table and we said, what do you guys like about this cam? What do you guys not like? What do you guys like about this cam? What do you guys not like? They liked the way that a C3 placed because it was rigid, but they didn't like the way that it walked because it was so stiff. And then they liked the way that an X4 was flexible once it was placed, but they didn't like the way that it was too floppy to place it. So they're the ones that said, hey, if you had a cam that was stiff when you placed it, but then flexible once it was placed, that would be super rad. And our designers were like, well, wouldn't that be rad? Yeah, that would be really rad. So I think the hardest thing was basically to get that to work. Jeremy says he went through over 100 iterations. I'm not sure if that's exactly true, but I've seen all the samples. And once you see it, it's relatively simple, but getting there I think was challenging. So getting it so that it was stiff enough when you placed it to allow the easy placement and retraction, but flexible enough. So, and I mean, there's lots of challenges. Jeremy would know more. Packing everything into that we really wanted a narrower head width. You know, we were pretty sure the materials we were going to use to get the durability we wanted in the plastic piece. But I think trying to pack a lot into this narrow head width and then just really getting the stem configuration the way we wanted. As well, getting the flex, you know, I mean, this twisted thing, it's easy once you look at it to go, that makes sense, but to figure it out, you know, it's a long process. No extendable sling. At BD, we're not believers in the extendable sling. We don't have an extendable sling. We're not going to put extendable slings on them. We don't do it. Go read the QC report. It doesn't help that much. It causes more problems than it does help, you know, that's the deal. So yeah, pretty excited, some cool new tech in the small cam world. The full range, of course, the new Zero, which is smaller than the 000 C3, up to the 7.5, and then the full set of offsets. And I'm a huge fan of the offsets. I think offsets get a bad rap. I think most people think offsets are a niche piece and more for climbing pin scars, and that's not the case. There's more irregular cracks on the planet than there are splitters like Indian Creek. I never leave the ground without offsets. It is the way. It is the way. I'm gonna make t-shirts, everything, yeah. And offset stoppers too. See how on the sling, on the offsets, blue is on the blue side and gray is on the gray side, so. And when I run these things on my rack, I always run black beaners on my offsets so I can tell the difference from everything else that's color coded. Little pro tip for you. It's true. KP pro tip, man. Use a different colored beaner. Boom. Yeah, these things are pretty sweet. And we're not done yet. There's a little teaser. Ooh. Yeah, we got more stuff coming. My Canadian brethren want it to be called the Z4, and I'm getting hassled because I say Z4 and they're asking me to return my Canadian passport, which is true, and wondering if I know who the Tragically Hip is and all this stuff. It's the Z4, and no, if you can speak English properly, you should be able to tell the difference between saying Z4 and C4. You know who I am. Why do we go through this every time?